Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's show. This is the Bryan Marshall Podcast.
Something just landed in the parking lot.
Landed in the parking lot.
Landed in the parking lot. I was out there. I was on my way in, and I just looked up, and I thought it was going to hit me. I don't know what it was. You know, there's been a lot of talk about UFOs lately. Do you think that's one? Wait.
Well, hello, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Well, that ain't no helicopter. That's Lincoln Crumb as Santa Claus. I know. I can recognize that guy anywhere. So I want to welcome Lincoln Crumb, a.k.a. Santa Claus. I've known Lincoln for 25 years.
Yeah.
I got my buddy Ryan Renault here as my sidekick, and I said it's Ryan Renault and the Bryan Marshall Show.
Oh, that's fantastic. You can rhyme.
I know, exactly. Ryan
impressive.
and Bryan here to interview Santa Claus. So
We have a whole team of writing elves at the North Pole
I've
that
heard
rhyme.
I've heard that, yeah. And
Well, but you know, as we get started, I wanted to just kind of share something with you all. I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen a 3D version of Santa Claus?
I can't say as I
I
know.
don't think so.
3D version.
I know the 2D version might be naughty and nice, but that,
Right.
I would be
Yeah.
naughty and he would be nice. But there you
Right,
go.
and all
That's-
my
that's
three
like a version.
versions are nice. So here's a 1D version right here, as you see it, right? Santa hat, the glasses, and the gloves that say Santa Claus on them. all right?
Absolutely.
The jacket, the red boots, right? Well, then,
This is the Santa stripper version. It's not the 2D
Yeah.
version.
And this is purely scientific, too. Neil
Yes.
deGrasse Tyson, if you're watching,
nothing but science happening
just
right now.
enjoy
And
and
magic.
absorb.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
All right. Here's another version of Santa. This is your 2D version, which has a version of me on it and
Oh, there you
version on
go.
the back.
Nice.
Then my favorite version of Santa is this guy right here.
You may have to lift your beard. Oh, there we go. Yeah,
see?
yeah.
His green gloves, and I have green gloves and green glasses. That is 3 different versions of Santa in one place at one time. And that, my friends, is what you call Santa magic.
All right. Cool. We're in a learning curve here.
I thought you were going to throw us like mints or something, or what are those, the things you hang on the tree in his bag?
Champagne glasses.
No,
That's
no,
right.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, peppermint
Innocent.
sticks.
Peppermint sticks.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
But
So thanks for
We're,
having me.
Roasting our nuts by the fire. I don't know.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
It's
we
good to
have
see you again.
we've known each other for a long time.
Yes, sir.
I came into the world meeting you in the realty and auction business.
Yes.
Local guys, Clark County, Southern Indiana. And
Very successful at that, as I may add.
Appreciate
in the community.
that.
Very well
Likewise.
known in the community.
Yeah.
Restored a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
Interesting.
yeah,
For many years. How long?
it was 35 years. At the end of this year, it'll be 35 years in the business for
And
me.
your dad was in that too.
My dad was in it, and ironically, my dad was also a Santa Claus, so I'm a second generation Santa.
Interesting. Well, there's
He was a
sense.
There's the
Santa.
bridge, huh?
genetically.
Yeah, he was a Santa at the Green Tree Mall in the early 1980s. He, as well, was a realtor in the real estate business in the early 1980s when interest rates were 18 and 19%. And he had to, do something else, have another side gig, and he knew how to be Santa. He was Santa as a kid. I was Santa as a kid. There's pictures of me at 10 years old with a Santa beard that I built out of all the cotton balls my mom had in the bathroom. She got mad at me because I used all her cotton balls, but I was destined to have that beard, and I wanted to look like Santa. I was the kid at Christmas that always liked passing out all the gifts. That was just something that was the thing for me. And you fast forward 35 years, and I decide that it's time for me not to be in the realty and auction business anymore. My dad passed away 5 years ago. I had a good run with him. I've had a great career, but I'm ready to do something else that creates another sense of joy for people other than their assets and selling all their stuff. And the best thing I could come up with, the best retirement plan, the best idea I could come up with, I went to our friend Dustin Davidson's Halloween party in 2021 on October 21st of 2021. I got a little $89 Amazon suit, Santa suit on. I put it on. I put this hat on. I wore that hat,
It's a
this
good
hat
hat.
for that reason, and little Santa glasses. And I put it on in the mirror and I started crying. I'm like, that's wild. That's a weird feeling. I love this. And the suit was a little $89 Amazon suit. I looked more like a little gnome, but I felt like Santa. And if you would have told me 3 years ago that fast forward 3 years, I would be a Santa that's a player on the national and international level now, traveling this year internationally, I would have believed you.
We'll talk about the international travel, and then I want to back up and talk about Charlestown. Where,
I would love that.
I just finished a house restoration up there, but I want to talk about the square, which is unbelievable, in Charlestown, Indiana.
So let's...
I mean, we're in Louisville right now, Louisville, Kentucky, but we're 10 miles away from Charlestown, Indiana.
Yeah, let's actually talk about that now, and then we'll circle back to it. I went to Charlestown 4 years ago. I went through a divorce, and Charlestown was this little Christmas city, and they had a lot of lights, and I rented an apartment from the local real estate guy and had a office down on the first floor that I put my Santa studio in, and my apartment, I lived upstairs. I live on a square in the little Christmas town of southern Indiana, and I become Santa, and I know a ton of people. I do a ton of philanthropy work for food. I've fallen in love with the local chef that owns the local cafe and eatery. I mean, I am a walking, talking, living, breathing Hallmark movie script.
is that little town.
Hey, and I'll take it, you know? I mean, because the work Rachel and I do together with me as Santa and her and the food stuff, that is awesome. Charlestown is a very progressive, growing little community.
Indeed.
It's where my great-grandparents were from, and I have a lot of love and passion for Clark County, Indiana, and I like living on the square. You know, 100 years ago, that square was a fairly bustling, busy little place. 80 years ago, it was one of the busiest places in southern Indiana after they built a bag plant. And I had a great aunt that just passed away, and she talked about on Friday and Saturday nights, the sidewalks around the square in Charlestown were all 8-10 people deep. You had to wait to get into stores. Well, that's before the Green Tree Mall, and that's before all of that stuff. And it's kind of seeing a resurgence of that. And I like living there and being a part of that resurgence, you know. And you mentioned you bought a house and redid it in Charlestown. Just to go up there and be a part of that little community on a daily basis and see the way things are changing, it's pretty cool.
Well, it's the growth pattern of southern Indiana right now.
It really is.
And I know they've added just within 5 miles of there 20,000 jobs, I heard.
Yeah.
And they got 20,000 jobs on the books that haven't materialized yet on plants going in there. It's just, the Ohio River is really the transportation that where you say, what drives all that? Well, that's it's the only open ground left in the whole Louisville metropolitan area is out that road, Highway 62, that goes over to Madison, Indiana, if anybody's been through there. But I want to talk about your storefront and what goes on there.
Yeah.
Can they come?
Yeah. So come? I have a storefront. Everything that we do, you can see it under the tagline My Local Santa on Facebook and social media and all that. So we list the different events that we have. So we have a couple upcoming nights. We have a Meet the Author and Illustrator Day. We'll talk about my book in a minute, where we read and talk about and share the story of our book. And then we have a day for our special friends, kids that are on the spectrum, kids that have an extra chromosome, kids that can't go to the mall or Bass Pro because of just extrasensory, because it's tough on adults. I have a nice, safe, secure spot right on the square, handicap accessible, no steps to get in.
They must love that.
And it's really nice for grandparents to come in, and it's evolved. This is our third year with it as a Santa studio. The first year was just a spot to come see Santa, take pictures. We set up a little station, and then the next year it was retail last year, and we had candles and all kinds of, really awesome stuff. It was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of Santa visits, and this year's more experience driven. So we're going to have cookies with Santa, our special friends with Santa. We're doing 2 paint nights, one with kids and, like the Sips and Strokes, and one with adults. We're having a really fun adult night with Santa, and I'll uncork your bottle, bring your own bottle of wine. So we've got a long list of moms and grandmas and everybody's favorite uncle signed up to come to that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Bottle. I want your autograph on one of those bourbon bottles or wine bottles.
Yeah. So it's about the experience for me. And it's a matter of giving people a chance to see the lights and see Santa at a free event. I'll be there year round. If this experience stuff works this year, I'll do that probably 4 or 5 other times throughout the year. Transitioning from the realtor auctioneer to full-time Santa and author and children's book author is going to really just put me on the circuit of hustling my books. I've got a box of books in my truck or on me at all times. I hustle books like Eazy-E hustled mixtapes in the 90s out of his 64 Impala.
Well,
I do, man. I just believe in hustling these books.
So I got to tell you a quick story.
Please.
I'm in Key West, Florida. I was always an artist, like to paint. I'm painting pictures in Key West, Florida, and just for fun. And a guy walks by and he goes, "Hey, that's pretty good." He said, "I own a T-shirt shop on Duval Street. It's the main drag of Key West." And he said, "Could you come up with something, character or something, that I could put on T-shirts for Christmas in Key West? Because Christmas in Key West is 90 and sunny like every other day in Key West."
Right.
And I said, "Well, let me think about that." He said, "I'll send you some images and you draw them and get them back to me." So I came up with Sandy Claus.
Oh, that's fun.
Sandy Claus did things like sit in the back of his cabin cruiser. They back boats into the dock down there. And so on the back of the boat, Sandy Claus is sitting there in your first, what would I say, orientation of Santa with the glasses on.
Yeah.
And so Sandy Claus was sitting there in jam shorts and flip-flops, and on the back of the boat it said, "Ho, ho, ho." So these became T-shirts that were sold for years on Duval Street.
Oh, that is so awesome.
And
I'm going to have to look on Vintage and see if I can find one of those.
it's been a while. But anyway, that guy was an orthopedic surgeon. He said, "I made all the money I needed to make." And I said, and then he said, "Yep, T-shirt shop in Duval Street in Key West."
That sounds fantastic to
Doesn't
me.
it?
I'm down.
So see, you're not. It's probably not novel to say I'm going to completely switch careers and do something else. But you know, my whole show was about people that I know that had a passion in life, and it makes life. I said it's the fuel for an interesting life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
I
really
liked
is.
cars. I liked art. I liked music, and I think whatever it is that drives you, that keeps you from spending every day saying, "Well, maybe tomorrow," but in the meantime, I'll just watch a football game and watch everybody else do something, and I'll just sit here. I want to introduce people that actually did it. And
So that's awesome. It makes me think about the story how I became Santa Claus.
please,
I was, for about a year, I had a real short white beard, and I would see little kids out at the store or at the grocery store, and they see me. I wouldn't just see it, I would feel a connection with them somehow. I didn't know what it was, but it was a little smile. And then the more I saw that, the more I kind of thought, "Oh my gosh, that's kind of cool, right? I kind of look like Santa. I look like a little gnome." So I started collecting little gnomes around my auction office and all that. And I started watching more Christmas movies. And I love the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, Scott Calvin, 1994. I mean, I really feel like that's a good part of what's happening to me. And so I just kind of leaned into it. And I got the suit for Halloween, and I tell people that's my coming out of Santa's closet story. I literally realized this is what I had to do. So I had this little suit. I had 5 or 6 little visits in Charlestown and some home visits. And I just wanted to know if I could do it. So I went down to Rural King. I got me some galoshes. I put my rubber boots on, and I worked the square in Charlestown where all the lights are. And one of the very first people I saw was a little lady who pulled up with her son, and her son was up there in age. He goes, "Is there any way, I got my mom here from the nursing home in Hanover, Indiana, to see the lights, and she sees that Santa is here. Could she come up and see you and take a picture?" I go, "Well, of course." Had a long line of little kids. They had to wait. So if you're 95, you get carte blanche. You get open door to wherever you want to go. And So here she comes. She's not 4 foot nothing, I don't think. I put my arm around her. She puts her arm around me. Son goes to take the picture. As he's taking the picture, her hand drops and she grabs just a nice big chunk of my butt and squeezed it. She reached up and gave me a kiss right here on my neck. And she said, you really made my Christmas this year. And I said, well, thank you. And he goes, this was before I had any Santa training, no Santa school. I was just out there raw dogging Santa.
Didn't know there was a Santa school.
Oh, yeah. And so her son said, Mom, you want to look at the lights? You want to walk around? She goes, no, I've seen everything I need to see. I'm good to go. And she got in the car.
Felt everything I need to felt.
Yeah,
and they left. Exactly. And I realized, boom, if that makes that little lady happy and I made her Christmas, I've got something. And within 6 months, I had gone to my first Santa Con. I bought my first big suit. I have researched. I modeled the Santas that I wanted to go after. I started saying early on, I want to be the prettiest Santa and the highest paid Santa in America. And I'm like, I'm halfway there. I believe it. I believe it. And I have just believed it.
So Santa stripper, I guess, is...
we don't need to worry about all that. Later, no, but what happened to me was I realized that I had something, and when I put certain glasses on, certain hats on, gloves on, jackets, whatever, it helps fuel that core present memory from littles or any human. The way a 5-year-old and their 55-year-old Nana looks at me because she remembers how she felt when she was little and Christmas and that time with her family and that warm energy is the same. And I have the ability to capture that and help them seal that in fate because I look a lot like the iconic commercial version of Santa that we've seen over the years. And now that I've kind of on this mission to show what it looks like to be Santa all year long, not just at the North Pole, but, all the way through doing things all tied to the book that I have written.
Let's talk about that real quick, too. But,
so I wrote a book titled, Oh No, Santa's Going to the Moon. I wrote it on January 25th, and I picked it up from the printer on September 25th. This was a 9-month baby for me.
I love it.
I wrote it, and the guy that illustrated it is a local guy. His name's Taj Mullins, and he's a illustrator and a art wizard and soon to be a dad. And I met with Taj. I met him on a fluke. When I knew I was leaving the realty business, I decided I should learn some other skills. And I fell in love with a chef. And if you're going to fall in love with a chef, you better speak food, informal and formal, not just home-cooked food. And I've been a home cook my whole life with my grandma, my mom, everybody. But that's different than somebody that is a commercially working chef. And so I enrolled in class at Ivy Tech at a 10-week program that Caesar sponsored.
Wow.
And I learned 10 weeks of culinary. And this past summer, I did over 250 loaves of bread that I made for people and gave it away.
That's a lot.
And just really honed in on how food works and how the process works. And with that, I decided I have to do something else. And I started writing stories. And I write stories about the items that little kids ask me for Christmas. First one, Oh No, Santa's Going to the Moon. It's a bedtime story about a little kid that has a dream that he goes to the moon with Santa Claus and is jumping around on it. And it's just a wonderful little story. That's the center spread, or my favorite spread.
Nicely done.
And so I've created this Oh No, Santa series. The next one is about Franken Christmas, Santa's monster truck. And I've written them about a cake decorating elf, a little drone, a unicorn that provides all the magic to the reindeer. Reindeer don't come up with the magic on their own. They need help of a unicorn because little girls ask for unicorn stuff more than just about anything. And so there are a lot of Santa authors, probably 50, 60 of them out there, but they write more on the story of what it's like for them to be Santa and stories that people tell them. I kind of want to write stories about the things that the kids have in their imagination, not their parents, not their grandparents, the kids' imagination, and integrate a world of Santa Claus into that, and then give them a real life, real D version. So like when I read this to schools, I wear a Santa suit that looks like a astronaut suit. You know, it's nothing official, but it's enough for a 7 or 8 year old little kid to see me in person right there. It rocks their world just as much as it rocks mine. So now that I have Santa, and I can't leverage being Santa all over the place, there's only 365 days a year, and there's only one of me. But I can leverage merchandise and books and these stories, and that's my goal. And
There you
that's
go.
my plan.
Chimney sweep is obviously the next
Right?
opportunity here, right? So you're like,
Yeah, we don't even go through the chimney anymore. We
that's
just
past
stream
tense.
Santa in.
Yeah.
This is a big thing people don't know about the North Pole. We just streamed in, man. Like, how do you hit every house in one day? Streaming.
there you go.
I stream in way higher than 4K.
That's great. You know, one thing I wanted to talk about is we hit on Charlestown, but I want to talk about how developed these lights and this whole Santa Christmas experience in downtown Charlestown, because it's not just lights on the square. I mean, you tune into a radio channel, it's all done to music.
It is.
Everything changes. They've got a laser light show going on. It's really something. And, it's free for the family. I think it's really cool to see at that time of year, bands pull up, kids hopping out, people giving candy away, all kind of stuff.
One of
going
my
on.
absolute favorite, we're at the Greenway Park. It's all the way down the main street. One of my favorite things to do is when the nursing home and more assisted living, independent living vans pull up to see the lights, and they'll sometimes get out or they'll drive around. I get on the bus with them. And you want to talk about taking someone back to when they're 6 years old. You have a bus full of dementia and folks that are just right there on the cusp of it. There's something about Santa that just opens a whole other box of feelings for them, and I just get to channel it.
I think
I
we're
just
on
get
top
to
of a
love
new
on
research project for Purdue University.
There you go.
Because they've done it with music in Europe, where a music can pull a person out of a dementia state. I bet you Santa Claus would do the same thing.
I will guarantee you.
Yeah.
I tell people, I kind of joke, it's kind of the ultimate VIP. I travel quite a bit, and when I travel, I wear my stuff that makes me look like Santa. I've taken, I don't know how many hundreds of selfies with Southwest and Delta employees and people. I just enjoy it. I embrace it. I was walking through the airport last year at Christmas time, and I crossed a guy that was a designer beard Santa. So there are Santas that have a real beard, which if you're a member of the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas, you get a real beard. If you don't have a real beard, you're what I call a designer beard Santa, and they're fantastic. You can't even tell sometimes if they're not real. There was a Santa with the exact same sweatsuit on that I have on, and we passed.
Like a
and I
jogging
said,
suit.
"You're a Santa. You're a designer beard Santa, aren't you?" He goes, "How did you know?" I said, I could feel it. And we exchanged cards, and we just kept on walking. And there really is something about feeling it. And I kind of lean into that. It's make believe, right?
Well,
it's
for
imagination.
anyone listening, it's actually true. When you landed, and for real, I asked to take a selfie with you. There's an emotion with that. And I'll tell you what, my takeaway today is going to be hearing your story about when you first put that suit on and it teared you up. I really want everyone to experience that kind of thing in life.
Yeah,
and
I do too. And I feel like it is a kind of a thank you for all the BS that I've put up with in my life, and that I've made every choice. And this is kind of like a dude, you put in the work. Now let's really enjoy this, and let's take it to whatever level that you feel best.
I'll have to tell you, because I think everybody has a chance to do some of these things. And again, we're trying to encourage people to do what their interests are. And so Ryan and I play in a rock and roll band together. He's a violin player. I play the keyboards. And about a month ago, we did a fundraiser for Jacob's Well. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
And we raised $1,000 last year. We did a little show for a couple of hours in Floyd County, Indiana. And we played, and people put money in the hat and $10 to get in. And anyway, we raised almost $3,000 that night.
Awesome.
And it's for kids for Christmas that otherwise are in that shelter would not get a Christmas.
Yeah,
so
man.
I just thought if everybody did that, we'd have a better world, wouldn't we?
We would. And it's funny. There's a network of Santas all over the country. And just about every time I meet a Santa, they all got something that they do in the community. Like me, it's food. I'm on the Regional Dare to Care Board of Directors. And I'm sitting there across from past mayors of Louisville, president of Kroger, the people that run the board. It's just amazing to me because food insecurity is my thing. I'm a Santa that likes to feed people. But there are Santas that do all kinds of other stuff. I kind of call it beyond the chair. And it's doing the work all year long. It's all fun to put on a Santa suit in December and see some kids and everybody cheer and all that. But what are you doing as a Santa? What are you doing as a community member? What are you doing to make a difference every day? And I love that you encourage people to do what they're passionate about. That's really super important for people. And it saved my life because I had forgotten what it was like to embrace the present moment. I was one of those that thought that the presents at Christmas were what was under the tree or what I bought at Pottery Barn or wherever else it was made up. Now I realize that the best presents are those present moments that we preserve with those around us. And that's my message as Santa. I do have a couple little technical things I want to share with you all, if that's okay, if we have enough time.
Yeah, sure.
So I did go to Santa school. I was a member of the 85th graduating class of the Charles Howard School for Santas in Midland, Michigan. I've been to 2 very large Santa gatherings, one in Atlanta and one in Memphis. You want to talk about overstimulating?
Yeah.
You just go into a room and you've got 500 Santa Clauses, right?
A bunch of ho-hos going on.
Yeah, lots of hoeing going on. And lots of napping, lots of Santa napping in the hotel lobby, which makes for wonderful pictures for me. So I love taking those photos. But I learned a couple things about what you got to do as Santa because people are very honest with you when you are, I call it in the chair. If I'm conversing, if I'm sitting here and I've got somebody one-on-one, I'm doing a whole lot before they ever tell me what they want for Christmas. I'm like, consent culture Santa. I'm not going to grab a kid.
Yeah.
If a kid is crying and they don't want to sit on my lap, I don't want them sitting on my lap either. I know some parents think that's funny. It's not funny. For the little or me, I'll do it to get a shot, but for the most part, I just don't. So some kids don't want to sit up on your knee or they want to just stand there by you, and that's okay. I don't shame them for that. I make sure we get the shot. So there are a couple of cool technical things that I want to share with you. I did go to Santa school. I graduated from the Charles Howard School of Santa Claus in Midland, Michigan, and I've been to the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas conventions and all that. I call it SantaCon. But, you know, when I am working the chair and I'm spending time with people and I'm handling their children, I'm handling their children. And I take that consent culture Santa to a high level because I want people, if there's a grown man that's touching my children or grandchildren, I want to make sure that we're all okay. And so I found the brightest colored green gloves. This is my 3rd pair of green gloves. I found the brightest pair of green gloves that I'm going to have, and I always wear them. So if I'm visiting with kids, I always have a bright pair of gloves on because I want you to always see my hands. Mm-hmm. You'll always know where my hands are. And so now what's happened is I got people saying, hey, will you wear that green pair of gloves? You're a green glove Santa. And so I've written a whole story titled The Royal Order of Green Glove Santas, and it's about Santas that just do certain things. So that's one thing. That's important. If you go see a Santa and they don't have gloves on, I'm sure they're fine, but I don't know, man. Put some gloves on. You're touching people's kids. That's just really important to me. The other thing is you get little kids that are real honest. Adults tell you things, but that's a whole other podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But the little things that kids tell you.
That will come later as
we progress. But the little kids are really honest with you. And I learned how to respond to a little kid. I had 2 instances. These are the 2 technicals, or 3. The one was the gloves. The other one is what little kids say to you and how fast you respond. And this little kid said, I said, hey, buddy, what you want for Christmas? I could tell it was off. I can tell. I watch their breathing patterns. If their little belly and their chest is moving fast, they're nervous, they're scared. So I pay attention to those things. And I said, what's wrong? He goes, well, the one thing I wanted for Christmas, there's no way I'm getting it. I go, wait. I was an early Santa. I didn't know. I go, well, you never know what old Santa can do. Tell me what you want. And he goes, my best friend, my papaw just died a couple months ago, and I just want him back for Christmas. Ouch. I'm like, oh, kid, that floored me. I took a deep breath. I said, buddy, can we do something? You let me tell you something? He goes, yeah. I said, let me tell you. I said, I know what you're feeling, and that's tough. And I appreciate you telling me that that's hard for you. I said, but sometimes during the day, just in the middle of the day, and you think of your grandpa, and you get butterflies in your belly, and you feel all kinds of warm and fuzzy, and you miss him. You know that? And he goes, yeah. I go, that's him telling you that he loves you. That's him coming back and let you know it's going to be okay. And he said, thanks, Santa. And we were all good, and we went on our way. The lesson in that was there's no way I could bring his grandpa back. But there was a way that I could help him preserve a present moment that he was having with me that enhanced a positive element to his core memory. Make sense?
Yeah.
The third one that happened to me was I was doing professional photos at a place, and I could feel it when they walked in, a dad and 2 little kids. I was a live-away single dad for my daughter for a long time and have been. She's 33 and I'm 55. She's been gone for 30 plus years, and we're closer than ever. But I know what parents and divorce and travel and visitation and all that stuff works. That comes into play in the holidays a lot. So I have that personal experience of going through that hell back and forth all those years to allowing me to be sympathetic and empathetic for people that are sharing with me. And in walks Dad, his 2 kids, sister sits on the right, the brother sits on the left, and it was nothing but just sad.
Oh.
They were sad. And I go, hey, what's going on? Nothing. And Dad's sitting over there sad. And I go, well, all right, well, we're not going to take any photos right now, but let's talk. Tell me what's going on. And the brother said, Mom and Dad got a divorce. And we're afraid that you won't know where to go, what house we live at.
Wow.
And he said, we're afraid that you'll get confused and you won't go anywhere. And I took a deep breath again. Yeah. And I'm like, well, buddy, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you that your mama, and I was loud enough for Dad to hear, but soft enough not to alarm anybody. I said, I can assure you that your mom and dad love you more today than they did yesterday. And when you all get up tomorrow, they're going to love you just as much, that much more. And you got a place at your mom's? Yeah. Got a place at your dad's? Yeah. You got a tree at both places? Yeah. I said, well, you are in, my man. You are set.
Double dipping.
And I said, and now maybe you get to take advantage of having 2 Christmases, but I can tell you that can be dangerous. And that's how you end up on the naughty list. And he smiled, and his sister smiled, and they told me what they wanted for Christmas. And I got Dad to get off the couch and wipe his eyes as he was walking over because he was crying. And he sat on the little sofa with us, and we all took photos. And they got up and left, and the kids were happy. I give every visit that I have a little card with my picture on it, and I tell them, if you keep this picture on your refrigerator all year long, keeps you on the nice list. If you're having a bad day, go tell my picture while you're having a bad day. I got friends that send me photos of the little kids talking to the refrigerator because I'm on their fridge. And so as the little kids walked out, they were looking at my photos and they were smiling. And Dad turned around, eyes teared up, smiled and said, thank you. The photographer shut the door behind him and I lost it, man. I absolutely lost it. Yeah. And I recovered. I had 4 or 5 minutes and I got through it and I let it out. But I felt my mom and dad going through a divorce when I was a young adult, going through my divorce, my child, all of that stuff. I felt it. But what I was crying and what I was releasing was I took that pain in for them and I allowed them to take that pain and that struggle that they were having and have a moment that didn't exist. And I was a release vessel for them. They left. I released it. It took me a couple of Santa seasons to learn how to release those things. People will tell you their chemo's not working. This is their last Christmas. They tell you all kinds of stuff, but you got to learn how to deal with that. And I have a therapist. I go to therapy, and good. I now know I have some Santa brothers. One of them that was a EMT, and he said there are certain things you're going to see as Santa that you can't unsee, and here's a way to cope, and here's a way to deal with it. And that's what the training. That's what the class is. I wouldn't know what to say to that little boy about his grandpa. I learned that from a Santa. The very first Santa I met in Atlanta from Anchorage, Alaska, told me that's what he says to little kids. Well, that was worth all the money it took for me to invest to go to that conference to learn how to do that because I won that day for that little. And you know who I was really stepped up for? Was his papaw. because I have the perspective of what it's like to be that papa. And so now my personal life and my professional life are all just one great big ball of joy and kindness and cheer. And it balances out with some sadness and dark days. That's why I'm a writer, right? That's what creatives do. And I am a accidental author, 55 years old, published my first book. It took me a little while, but I've written 10 other ones. And I think we're just now getting started. And the way that we're getting started is a very grassroots movement talking about the power of being present with podcasters like you all, with people in the media, with elected officials, with librarians in our local schools, all of that. It's just talking about, hey, man, let's just all be present for a moment. Let's be kind and present, and let's embrace our moment. And Santa gives me the vessel to do that not being Santa I didn't get that with not being Santa, but as Santa Claus and VIP, because people are like, I know you're not Santa. I know you're not. I know you're not. But just in case if you are, this is what I want. And nothing makes me happier. I love that because it allows them to almost time travel to when they were 7 years old. And I'm that vessel. I am that rocket ship that they get on and they fly to that moment and have just a brief little fun
sometimes you
moment.
land in the parking lot.
And they'll land in the parking lot of a
You
podcaster.
got to watch out. Where are you driving?
I want to say one thing, if I may, to you. And I know time's drawing up
I'm
here,
good.
but I want to say this to you. There's a Buckminster Fuller who was a designer of cities along with a number of things. Got a book called The Design of Cities. Buckminster Fuller
Spaceship Earth.
the geodesic dome and a number of projects. But he said this, and this is what I want to say to you as a thank you from the community, because he said everyone's responsibility in a community is to be a rudder. But a rudder doesn't work without back pressure. Mm-hmm. So you've got to push, and it pushes back. And if you know where you're going, that rudder gets you in a straight line. Mm-hmm. But I think if people don't jump into these kind of programs, I mean, we're getting our fulfillment, are we not, out of playing in a band and raising money for kids for Christmas?
Being right here, man.
I've been working here right now.
I've been working in ministry for 20 years, and I never dreamed I'd be sitting here in a studio with Santa Claus thinking,
right?
Holy beep.
Yeah, it's fun. It just takes you to a happy spot.
So I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
You're doing a good job.
That. I appreciate that.
And anybody that doesn't come to Charlestown, I think for the whole month of December?
Yeah, well, I leave December 17th. I'm going to where they make 80% of the toys. Everybody thinks that the North Pole Toy Factory is up, way up in the North Pole, North Canada and Saskatchewan and all that. 80% of the toys in the world are made in China. So I'm going to go spend a week with people in China and do some work there and entertain a Santa Claus for 7 or 8 days. I'm going to entertain on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and Boxing Day, which is a big English holiday for the merchants. And so I get to celebrate a bunch of events with them and experience their culture and be a part of what they do for celebrate Christmas. And then that allows me to check off the box of being an international Santa Claus. And
share the
allow
Santa
me to go all
love,
over the world.
man. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
you're doing the job, right?
Yeah, putting in the work. You just got to put in the work.
So there's our passion story back. And
put in the
what
work.
it means to actually do something that you always wanted to do, and you're doing it. That's the best part.
Yeah, and I was never afraid of it. I just never knew what it was. I'm a trendy guy. I have done a bunch of businesses. Some of the trends work, some of the businesses work, some didn't.
That's right.
And I'm like, I've never hit anything like, I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'll see people throughout the year and they're like, don't you think it's awful early to be Santa? And I'll just have a, Santa shirt on or whatever. And I go, man, when you look this much like Santa Claus, you're Santa Claus 365. Celebrate with me. I love you. Merry Christmas. And I know at any given moment how many days it is till Christmas. And that's always a fun little thing to give to people. And I know all the reindeer names and have all the stories that you can ever imagine. And it's just my job to allow people to believe in the power of magic of the present moment.
Now, I don't know what calendar China runs on, but how many days till Christmas in China?
Same. Well, it's we're a day ahead there, so I'll be celebrating Christmas there, 13 hours ahead.
Thank goodness
of you
Santa
all
Claus
will
is
here.
keeping track of this.
Oh, I got it
I'd
all
have made
laid
a
out.
mess of it.
You know, it's funny because we give gifts away at every show now, which is a free watch. I'm a watch collector, and I have a number of watches, and every show we're giving a watch away because people have got to be cognizant of time
Yeah.
with all their dreams. You know, you've got
It'll
to,
get away from you if you're not careful.
yes. So we want people to think about time.
Do you have any insights on time, Santa Claus?
Oh, yeah, it's all one great big warp.
Oh,
It's about time. There
It's
you go.
about the time warp, man. It's about the time warp.
Well, we dig you, Santa Claus. We're
Thank
glad
you.
you're
I
here. We're
appreciate
glad
you.
you landed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I gotta
big
get
applause from the community.
you're busy.
I got to get to Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and get out of the Ohio Valley spitting weather this evening and get myself back to the North Pole.
Sounds
I
good.
appreciate you.
Sounds
Thank
good,
you.
brother. Thank you.
Okay.
Glad to have you.